Welcome to St George's Primary School. It's a real honour to have you all here today, and we hope that you have a fantastic day.
I think the essence of St. George's is the unshakable belief that no child is going to fail, that they are going to get every single child to proficiency, every single child. And that has been just incredibly motivating and inspirational to think that that actually happens. I've never seen another place like it.
At the end, it says that her ghost bent down at him.
I think the number one thing that struck me was the leadership and the focus of the leadership. There are no questions asked. You don't guess about anything when you go into St. George's. You know exactly what those teachers need to do.
What we tried to do with St George's when we came was try to make the environment here really lovely for the children. So you can see in the surrounding area that it's very high-rise. It's very industrial, and their homes can be quite troubled as well. So nothing outside we wanted to be reflected inside. And when we first arrived here, school was an exact replica of what was outside. So we worked really hard with the gardener to redesign the gardens and to make sure that the children felt really valued and that they were really important and that their environment reflected that.
What was clear when I came to St George's was, okay, the children were failing in every year group, the school was failing. It was in what we call special measures, which is the category that says this school is completely failing and it needs new leadership, and hence we were here to get it turned around. At the same time, I was working with the children on how we would construct a calm school code. What might that look like? And I wanted it to be something that if you were 3 or if you were 63, I could use the same directives, referencing the Pacific Institute. Tell me what it's like when it's right. Positive directives. So together we came up with speak nicely, listen carefully, act kindly, move calmly. And every time we believed it better, and the conversations became not if conversations, but how conversations. Every child could succeed, and so that now we're a school where that we have a no excuses culture, and everybody in the school drives with an expectation that every single child is going to get there.
Besides his seat, and then he gives it to the space tourist.
Because when you're driving at every child successful, the environment changes, the relationships with children change, the relationships between the professionals change, the relationships between the leaders and the teachers changes, the relationships with the parents changes, because suddenly you realise that your parents are a massive resource for you and they're that child's first teacher, and you want them to be as active and busy, as successful as they can possibly be as that child's first teacher, and you want every conversation to be a learning focused conversation, because all of you are driving after the twin premium of fantastic in the moment opportunities for the children, lesson by lesson in every day, and outcomes that are absolutely risk-free, and then as we say, you're rocking. And of course, the truth is that when the school is so very successful in the way that St George's, to be a school with 60% deprivation, severe deprivation, and be in the 2% highest performing schools nationally, nobody actually cares what you're doing. They just love the fact that you're doing something so superbly successful, and everybody then is interested in those choices that you've made. And I encourage heads all the time to make those choices in their context for what they know works for them.
So when I arrived here, St George's had just come out of special measures, which is a category of a failing school in England. And everything about the school was failing. So the teaching was failing, the parents were failing, the children were failing, the building was failing, everything just did not work for the children, the school, the community. And it was quite a hostile place. It was very challenging. Lots of behaviour issues, but a lot of that was to do with the quality of the teaching in the classroom. So on every level, it didn't work for the children. So it's been a big journey to get to where it is today. But I think, Jan's leadership at that time, and Jan had to dig really deep to just think about how she was going to make that work. But her absolute vision for the community and for what the school was going to be like has taken us to where we are today.
The child lives in the moment. That's the beauty for anybody who works with children and who spends time around children. That's why they're so joyful to be around, because they just live joyfully in this moment now. When I'm in the classroom observing teaching, one of the key indicators for me is the measure of delight. What would an index of delight in learning look like? Because I want them to be delighted right now. In that sense, if they're thriving now and if they're achieving now, tomorrow is going to look after itself. And experience has shown that to me, that we create that risk-free future for the children if we take care of the present moment.
My favourite part of the day at St George's is getting into lessons and seeing the children learn, without a doubt. I love seeing the passion and the kind of fire in their eyes when they're learning, and they really are the best children that you could possibly teach, because they want to learn so much. They're so engaged by their learning, and they just want to be the best that they can be as well, and to see that every day is just that's why I love coming to work.
There is just a deep burning passion that I understand that these children have me, and I can make it change completely for them. And that's a big part of what all of this has been about. If I need to draw on a reservoir of courage, that's very easy for me. I just look to the children. Because I was seeing things, for example, like with, I could say, the boys in particular. It was standard practice at that time for children to learn to write by mark making, so they'd pick any implement up, could be just in a fist grip like this, and they'd start, and this was called writing, and they'd bring it to you and you'd say, well, what does that say? And they wouldn't be able to read it. This was deeply, deeply frustrating to these children, and I could just see that all of this oppositional behaviour all the time was just a response to the fact that they felt unsuccessful, and the whole chaos and lack of structure really didn't work for them. So just with a little bit of experimentation, day on day, tweaking things, I brought in more structured teaching. I set some learning goals for them. I insisted that they could take a reading book home every day, and so on and so on and so on. I insisted it grew and grew, and I insisted that, they weren't to mark make. From the moment they picked up any implement to write, they were to be taught the grip. They were to be taught the orientation, so that everything I decided they would be taught to do the correct way from the start. They wouldn't, their learning journey wouldn't rely on an undoing, because the undoing actually was an unravelling at the conscious level. I could see that from 3, right the way through the school, our issue was oral language. And I just traced that right down to the 3-year-olds. And I could see that our 3-year-olds, generalisation, but as an average, they had just a few word utterances. Their language was so very, very poor, and that's not because they're speakers of other languages, that's because the language models in the home are just so impoverished. So I was getting interested then in really focusing on oral work all the time in teaching and learning. We brought on board the Confident Voice, which is a programme that I've just developed here at St George's, which is about every child having voice awareness, every child understanding that their voice is something that must always have an awareness of its audience. A voice is a sort of service function, because when you speak, you're giving to the room. As well as, growing yourself through your voice. I think that's a really important thing. So, in child speak, use your confident voice is an easy, motivating way of bringing the voice through. It's unintimidating. And we got a whole reward system going with that.
Yeah, and swim inside.
Excellent. Draw your picture.
We had been searching for something that would help us with the early literacy. And there are lots of programmes out there, but none of them have the consistency of Sounds Right. And I think the consistency of Sounds Right brought us to a consistency of approach in all sorts of other areas. So, when you think about St George's, you think about consistency. But I think a lot of that did start with the Sounds Right, because it is such a consistent approach to teaching phonics that we applied that across into lots of other areas.
And one of the things that's most misunderstood is really how complex a task it is, a job it is, to teach how the language works in relation to the writing system, how the sounds of the language relate to the writing system, how complex it is, and how complicated a job it is for teachers to teach it. Because not only do you have to understand it, but you also have to attune yourself and calibrate your teaching to the needs of every single individual child. And I really feel that Sounds Right is capable of doing that, because it's an approach. Which means that if you can see that a child is missing this particular thing right now, tomorrow you can tackle that again, and the next day, and the next day, and the same goes for the other child over here who has a different issue. I think we're capable of mediating whatever it is that children need at any particular time, and to keep that going until they've really got it, until as you Americans say, they've got it down. That's, but I suppose that's it. But really the message is train the teachers. If you don't train the teachers, you don't stand a chance. We're scratching the surface. These are the sounds we need to build the word. Watch my finger. You should be staying with my finger, because that's where you can hear the sound. Zig. Listen. Zig. Watch my finger though. That's where you can hear the sound. Zig. So, who can tell me the first sound? Put your hand up this time if you think you can tell me the first sound in the word zig.
Outstanding, without a doubt. I would put St George's is outstanding. When I was at my old school in North London, it was classed as a good school, and I would work long hours, and I would think what makes it good? How can you make it outstanding? What's the next thing to be able to make it outstanding? And coming here, I can see the difference. How calm the children are, how focused the children are, how they all know what they are learning, what they should be doing. They all know the right choices. We taught to the children a lot about them making the right choice rather than just telling them. We want them to think about the choices that they are making. At St George's there is a very structured environment for nursery children, and they respond well to it. They do their learning, but they also still do choosing. I put out specific jobs that I would like them to do. After they have done their learning on the carpet, they will go and choose a job, and then they will stay at that job and complete that job. When they have completed it, then they can choose a different job. There can be jobs from driving the cars in the sand to making Christmas cards that we're doing at the moment. And they choose their jobs. I don't choose them for them. but there is a lot more structure than in a lot of nurseries. And the reason for that is because we find that the children are able to cope with that. They really respond to it. The writing that you saw them do, that was them doing it. They can do it. Why wouldn't you support them in that? I don't make them sit down and do it all day every day. And during the teaching, when they're learning, they pick it up very fast, and then they will go away and apply that in their choosing time as well. And for them to go away and write a word in choosing time, when they don't have to, that's just their choice, shows me that they are able and capable and want to learn. These children are wanting to learn, so we feel that we should be teaching them. Sound good, girl. It's the end of the word. We are going to build a word today with the n at the end of the word. Do you know what this is? Your turn. My turn. This is a pan. Your turn.
This is a pan.
My turn. I stir the pan. Your turn. What's the next sound?
No, don't put on the legs.
Pan. We've got the p. We need an here. An. The next sound is a. Off you go, Rashan. The p is there. That's it. Tell your friends.
This is
Thank you. Good job.
What is?
Pan. Pan. We're going to go down, knobby back, up and over the net. Oh no. Torin, what's happened? It's up, it's not on the line. Oh no. Does it matter? Doesn't matter. Sometimes we make mistakes. I'm just going to put a line through it and try again. Can you remind me how to do the n? Down, knobby back, up and over the net. Is that on the line this time? That is outstanding.
I think it needs additional feet on the ground, skilled teachers in there in order to make sure the children in this environment can make the progress they need to be age-appropriate readers and writers by the age of 7. And if we haven't caught them by the age of 7, the gap is just too big to make up. So you're playing catch-up the whole way through primary school if you don't get them by the time they're 7.
Rashid, let's check it. If I say chesp, what is this sound here? Chesp. Chesp.
The S would be there.
Good
The
boy.
P would be there.
Excellent, so switch them round.
Yes, I think leadership is absolutely key to consistency across the school. I think we've done several things. First of all, the Teaching and Learning Handbook. So when new starters come, they're trained for 2 days, an inset day. They are trained, taught for writing, maths mastery, sounds right, reciprocal reading. And they're given this handbook, which is how to teach every aspect of teaching at St George's. And then not only that, but how we do lunch times, how we do every part of the day. So there's no mystery, no how we do things in different classes. There's a set way so that the children are getting the same deal in each class. And then we make sure that all of our staff meetings are very much to do with teacher development. So every Tuesday when we meet, we're focusing on a specific area of teaching and learning, which I've picked up as an area of development when I watch lessons. And similarly, it's a very open atmosphere in the school. Everyone wants to ask to improve. They know where to go to improve even more. Obviously, we signpost that to them. And constantly in the staff room, you'll hear, can I come and watch your reading lesson? I've heard it's great. Can I come and see your maths meeting? So it's that real kind of ethos of sharing, because we're serving the children and we want to make things the best that we can for them.
The key thing for us at St George's has been about children having ownership of them as a person. So we make sure that the children have a sense of self and they have a sense of ownership. So we don't talk to the children about bad behaviour. We talk to the children about their choices. So with that comes that, they're not ruled by fear. They're not scared of their teachers. They are respectful of their teachers. And the two big things that we talk about at St George's are dignity and integrity. And we talk to the 3-year-olds about that just as much as we talk to the 11-year-olds about that. And they really understand that integrity is all about doing the right thing when nobody's watching. So, you can use that with the children, and it's not fear. It is a genuine sense of wanting to be the best they can be for themselves and to trying to bring them to their fullness as young people to make good choices in their life. So dignity and integrity are definitely the key. We have just really this year started to look properly at Carol Dweck's work and the growth mindset. We've, as leadership, we've always talked about it, but we've never been explicit with the team about it. But this year, what we've noticed is that, we've done it this year because what we've noticed previously is people have become quite, children get a lot of praise, but it hasn't been specific praise and it hasn't necessarily been helpful praise. And when we're looking at resilience, it's actually done the opposite because it's made them wait for that, oh, well done, you're brilliant. And that hasn't helped the children with their resilience and their grit. So this year we've been very explicit with the team about growth mindset. We've done a couple of training sessions on it so that they are now trying to be much more specific in their praise and trying to praise the children's effort and praise what the children have done rather than just a very generic, well done, you're great. And that does seem to be having a positive effect on the children. We've also started to work with the word yet. So we've talked to the children a lot about you can't do it yet. And we've shown the children some of the videos about how your brain can be exercised and how you can learn something if you just, build those pathways in your brain. So the children now will say to you, I'm not in the 144 club yet. And they'll do it with that really cheeky, I'm not in the 144 club yet, and they are really embracing that word. So that's been a real positive. So the school is doing really well. And we're very proud of where we're at now compared to where we were 12 years ago. We're still constantly growing and developing and changing. And that's the kind of big thing this year is how we actually teach that resilience rather than just say the word and say that, we teach children to be resilient. We're really trying to think about what does that mean? What does it look like? And how do we show them practically how to be resilient?
Having a head teacher like Sarah Collymore, makes me want to actually learn more, do more, and actually face my fears. Compared to my previous school, there were a lot of negative teachers, and you do get negative teachers because teaching is a hard job. Every day there are new challenges to face. But I would say that the growth mindset here, if I was to talk about the children as well, if I have it, then I bring it out on the children and they are positive and they know where they can go. They can see their path, their future in life, which is amazing if you get them thinking in a positive way. I think I was like a little bud and now I'm slowly growing because even though I've taught for quite a long time, I could have easily just got quite stagnant in my job. And you go in every day. I mean, it's still hard work, but being here, I'm being pushed to my limits. And I know it's hard and it's challenging, and I go to bed at 8 every night, but it is amazing, and it's really kind of made my confidence grow, definitely, and I feel great.
So what struck me with the conversations with the principals that have been here this morning is how kind of perceptive they've been about exactly what we've done here to improve the quality of provision for our children. And they have kind of shared with us what they're doing on their journey already and what they would like to put in place from what they've seen this morning. But their messages have been about consistency, about simplicity and the kind of calm school, and how much they would like to implement that back when they go over as well. But yeah, it's been a pleasure to meet them. They really have been really receptive and reflective on what they've seen.
And as we have seen over the last 4 days and tried in our minds and hearts, tried to wrap our hands around how do we bring that back to our schools, getting everyone to believe that same thing, that every single kid, no matter what, can reach and learn at high levels. That's been just kind of a huge thing to take away.
When the challenges come, the place you will always find me is on the playground. That's where I go to connect deeply, deeply with the children in their play, in their joy, in their freedom, in the place, you know, children to me are just so close to the human soul and the spirit. And I get to that, and then I've got it's like a power charge, and then I can go and do any adult stuff that I need to do, and it's just so easy for me. And when other heads talk to me about difficult conversations, that is meaningless to me. Difficult to me is that child's let down, and I haven't been brave enough.